Zohran Mamdani a betrayer of the revolutionary cause, or a person who has been able to rizz up Donald Trump? These are the questions that are swirling around in the minds of many on Twitter. Of course, the Marxist-Leninists that say that everyone that could be considered a social democrat is a social fascist, including Zohran Mamdani, a fascist collaborator. And then also on the other side, there are a lot of people who are like, Zohran is the bringer of revolution. He did it. He rizzed up Donald Trump and single-handedly is making America socialist. I am somewhere in the middle here, a little bit of a centrist, a little column A, little column B. Definitely don't think that Zohran is bringing about a socialist revolution in the country by rizzing people up one fascist at a time. I don't think that that's what's going on, but I also don't think that he is as big as a, social democratic betrayer of the revolution as the way some people presented it. I think he's the mayor of New York, or the next mayor of New York. He's not even the mayor of New York yet. Yeah, there is a lot going on in the world. Okay, there's a lot going on in the world, but let's take a look. Okay, well, I'm back in America and my Twitter is busted already. Nice. In China, through the VPNs, this shit is working better. What the hell's going on?
Which ones?
There's no confiscation.
Hey,
then
you
would
that
means of property.
Can I just say,
luxury condos
this
should
is a
be
perfect,
taken if they're not in use?
This is a perfect example. The MAGA media ecosystem has made Zohran seem like this extreme jihadist. And listen, some of his ideas
the
are
legislation he supports in the council will force property owners, before they can sell it on the public market,
it's called
to sell it.
Why didn't Trump confront him about that? Why didn't Trump confront him about it? Why was Trump?
He said it was his honor.
Maybe he did.
Well, you know what Trump said? Trump said that we both agree on increasing the supply of housing, and that's going to.
I'll tell you why it hasn't taken the socialism issue off the ballot, because Zohran Mamdani's own party is facing a challenge. Because not just is Hakeem Jeffries facing a challenge from a socialist, but you have Jerry Nadler retiring and socialists running for that seat. You have Dan Goldman facing a socialist challenger. You have Grace Meng facing a socialist challenger. All these members of the House, there's probably 4 or 5 of them, are facing socialist challenges.
Although, I guess we should know that Mamdani has explicitly come out against a challenger.
And this is why I give him credit. This is why I give him credit, because he has the most to lose. He spent last night basically telling his own DSA members not to support a socialist against an establishment Democrat. Now today he's out there, chumming around with Donald Trump. He has a lot to lose on this, and I give him credit for doing the right thing.
Let me ask you real quick on Lee Stefanik. She had a response to all of this. She says, we all want New York City to succeed, but we'll have to agree to disagree on this one. If he walks like a jihadist, if he talks like a jihadist, if he campaigns like a jihadist, if he supports jihadists, he's a jihadist. And he is Kathy Hochul's jihadist. If you're Lee Stefanik tonight, how do you feel? Because I'm not sure that works.
I don't think, no matter what, she ain't going to take her foot off the gas. I mean, she's going to go after him. She uses the term jihadist, but if you hang out with Hasan Piker, if you hang out with people that deny 9/11.
Yeah, famously, I am also a jihadist. Thank you, bald Staten Island Republican. Yeah. Brother, between you and I, who do you think closely resembles the unironic socially regressive policies of what you consider to be jihad? Like, because if we're going to think about like what Americans think jihad actually means, who do you think between me and the average Republican is closer to what these guys think is like jihad, Sharia law, Taliban rule? It's a Republican. The American Taliban is the Republican Party. Okay? Repression of women, denying them their bodily autonomy, like every single thing that these advocate for on the social front, while they simultaneously claim it is people like myself or Ilhan Omar, even Zohran Mamdani, that are, doing Sharia law, doing jihad, they are the ones who are unironically advancing the concept that is infinitely closer to jihad or Sharia in the United States of America. Okay? Like what they suspect is what jihad is. What they suspect is Sharia. It's very stupid. Yeah, Councilwoman Inna Vernikov. It's a good day for the American people when 2 leaders of such diametrically opposing views can come together for the betterment of our city and find common ground. But we should never kosher a Marxist with jihadist aligned views. Did we forget that Zohran Mamdani wants to cease the means of production? Cease Zohran Mamdani wants to cease the means of production, not seize the means of production, okay? But wants to halt them entirely. Socialism is no production. Awesome. I swear to God, the average IQ of an American politician is less than 0, okay? They found, like, in order to be a politician, you could be like here's an example of this. You could be like you could go to Oxford. You could be a Rhodes Scholar. But in order to get up there on that stage, in order to become a successful politician in America, you have to literally slam your head with a frying pan over and over again until your brain is leaking out of your ears. Okay? And the greatest example of this, of course, is the what's his face? Kennedy from Louisiana, a Rhodes Scholar who runs around like Foghorn Leghorn or whatever that is. Oh my God! Tonight on the third night of Hanukkah, I'm at the. It's always the same. She's the one who invited Netanyahu to attend Zohran's inauguration. It's always this. It's always this. It's 100% of the time. There's a 100% success rating on this unimaginably racist, Islamophobic stuff that you hear. And the moment you look at their profile, you're like, oh, I get it. I see what happened here. Nice. Baby, wake up. It's time for Israel's feelings again. Yeah, I know. Exactly. Did we forget that he refused to condemn globalized intifada, refused to condemn Hamas, campaign with Hasan Piker who said America deserved 9/11 and pressed around with jihadists? Just yesterday, Mamdani blamed a house of worship for the protest which called for violence against Jews inside the temple. Mamdani should have been given a spanking at the White House. Disappointed that instead he was legitimized. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I can't believe that Zohran Mamdani campaigned with someone who denies 9/11 happened, which is what this guy is saying. At least he's unique. Did I say 9/11 did happen and America deserved it? Or did I say 9/11 didn't happen?
She ain't going to take her foot off the gas. I mean, she's going to go after him. You know, she uses the term jihadist, but if you hang out with Hasan Piker, if you hang out with people that deny 9/11 was the responsibility of Islamic terrorism, you hang out with people like that, you're going to get that criticism. That's going to be her issue. That's what she's going to push in the campaign. I don't think she's going to take her foot off the gas one bit.
Errol, you know, why do you think Mamdani made this pivot? In a way, I mean, it is somewhat, it's smart because he neutralized Trump in especially in the first maybe 6 months of his term on some very key issues, law and order, maybe even ICE, funding for the city of New York. Why do you think he ended up here?
Well, look, Mamdani wants to succeed. He wants to be a successful mayor before he wants to do anything else. This caricature that people have painted of him as if he's some ideologue who's all he's ever wanted to do.
Listen to the whole sentence. He never said you deny 9/11 happened. No, he said jihad means struggle. You are upholding a racist trope. No, dumbass. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. I said their conception of jihad, which is a false conception of jihad, or their conception of Sharia. Okay? Who do you think is closer to their understanding of jihad and Sharia? Listen to my words. I'm not saying this is the appropriate. I'm not saying that this is the appropriate understanding of what jihad means. Now you are, yes. No, you moron. I said it in the beginning. It's not my fault that you are incapable of hearing what I'm talking about. Before you didn't? Yes, I did. You're actually wrong. And not only are you wrong, you're being annoying. You're wrong and annoying. It's the worst combination. I did. Stop trying to woke scold. It's your fault that you didn't hear what I was saying. It's not my fault that you didn't hear the full statement. Yeah, if you subscribe, you can actually use the rewind function and go back and listen. Okay? The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. If you subscribe, you can actually use the rewind function on your desktop, as a matter of fact, for $8 a month or for free. Or is it $7 a month? Or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers.
Do is implement this ideology. He's been in office for 5 years. That is not at all what has happened. We've seen what socialist incumbents have done. If you look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they have not ended the social order. They have not overturned capitalism. Bernie Sanders has been in office for how long? He's given the same speech for a
Hassan,
generation.
I'm going to.
They're a minority within the
Hasan, show me your legs, daddy. Hasan, I'm going to rape you, bitch. That's a weird. That was a weird jump off. I mean, it was like weirdly horny from the start, but cool. We're back, baby. We're back. Back in the United States of America. You know what I mean? I mean, enjoy the site-wide ban, I guess. I don't know why you would put that out there, but I guess it's a sock account created following since. Welcome home, brother. Yeah. Classic Zach Rar follower. Yeah, we got some lunatics in here.
Democratic conferences, they're still a minority. Zoran didn't pass any legislation. Doesn't mean he didn't propose and push socialist principle
attempts
legislation.
to terrify the public over people because they have the socialist word somewhere in their ideology, somewhere on their website. It just doesn't work. We just put it to a vote in the biggest city. We had record turnout. Yep. We put it to a vote.
And that's the problem.
It didn't work.
It was put to a vote in the biggest city, but I bet you Abigail Spanberger couldn't run as a socialist. I bet you Mikey Sherrill couldn't run. Mikey Sherrill couldn't run as a socialist.
So the Democratic Party is fully beholden to socialism.
No. I'm saying the Democratic Party doesn't know who it is, as evidenced by the point that I just pointed out. There's 6 members of New York being primaried by socialists.
You think the Republican Party knows what they are right now?
There's a lot of momentum in New York.
Today is an illustration. Today is an illustration.
I don't know why they stream out of the Food Network kitchen. I always find that strange. But anyway, I miss China. Can you go back like now after reading and hearing that? I think it's a sign for you to go back. I mean, no, I do miss this. I do miss this struggle. Okay. I do miss this battle. I do miss this struggle a little bit. I'm glad to be back. I'm excited to be back. Budget cuts hit CNN hard. Yeah, they're talking about kitchen table issues on a kitchen table. I guess that's what it is.
Meeting with President Trump at the White House. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani is back home, and he's sharing more insight on their conversation and standing his ground on some criticism of the president. Jenna DeAngelis has more.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President.
A cordial Oval Office meeting between President Donald Trump and Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani Friday, described by both as productive.
Focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New York.
Yes, dealing with the chatters is my own personal jihad. That's what it is, straight up. That's what's going on. Don't get it twisted. I say politics is depressing and hopeless. Time to become a travel blogger and go back to exploring China. No. It's depressing, it's hopeless, but also at the same time, we do it nonetheless. And the reason why we do it nonetheless is because there is a lot of avenues of improvement, and we're experiencing said improvement. So at a time when, you know, the American political landscape is shifting and is changing, I think it's silly to just like take a sidestep. You know, do you feel betrayed by Mamdani? No. I am going to go back to my OG sentiment, as I have said, even while he was campaigning, which is that politicians are not your friends. Politicians do politics. Okay, put the policy in the bag, little bro. That's it. Put the policies in the bag, little bro.
I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. A big help, because I want New York City to be great.
On Sunday, during his first appearance back home, Mamdani said he was feeling good.
Too often, when two politicians meet, the conversation rarely extends beyond them. And what we found instead is that this was a conversation that was productive.
The mayor-elect speaking to reporters outside a Bronx church where inside he preached his priority, a more affordable city.
And to do that work means to work with anyone, so long as the work that we do is the work to help this city and the people that call it home.
While the two appear to be putting aside their differences after months of trading insults, over the weekend, Mamdani didn't shy away from past criticism or...
Yeah, I mean, he's the president, okay? Fascist or not, he's the president. And we do not have the organization to like militarily resist a fascist government. I don't know what the expectation is here. Like the notion that he's supposed to go up there and be like, F you, you, Donald Trump, suck my dick. Like, no, of course not. You have to play ball. And for people to turn around and say, oh, well, you guys had a lot of words to say about Kamala Harris running around with Liz Cheney. Yeah, Kamala Harris personally chose to offer a platform to Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney had no motion whatsoever amongst the Republican base of support. That was more beneficial for Liz Cheney than it was for Kamala Harris. And I cannot believe that people are still making these sorts of comparisons. That was bad politics. This is necessary. Like, Liz Cheney has no power over Kamala Harris, and Liz Cheney had no motion anyway. So running around with Liz Cheney was a major mistake, demonstrated by the fact that Kamala Harris lost. In this circumstance, you have to look at the position that Zohran Mamdani has and the position that Donald Trump holds. And in this circumstance, this meeting is more beneficial for Zohran Mamdani than it is for Donald Trump. This has been my main issue. They were 1,000 times more organized in 1919 than we are today, 10,000 times more serious than we are. We are cooked, and any leftist who thinks we could usher in socialism at this time is either 1, blind, 2, stupid, 3, both, or 4, a counter-revolution who's just trying to show that they're determined, the other left is. You have to organize within the material realities that you have, not one where you wish, not material realities you wish we had, okay? You're laughing and saying 1919, but it's true. There was a much more robust response from the socialist left, communist, trade unionist, labor militancy that was actually winning success through labor militancy. We don't have any of that stuff right now. There is nothing that you can do. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to like lean into it. You have to normalize it. You have to organize around it. And eventually, if the opportunity is there, then you have to move. You can't do that right now. It's just, this is something that I have talked about quite a bit. In order, if your goal is to build a mass line or a popular front, you have to go where the masses are. And the masses are self-identifying liberals for the most part, especially in this country. There is very little class consciousness. That's it.
Clarifying this unexpected moment.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say
okay.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it.
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement.
A place of agreement, public safety, and the decision to retain.
Dude, this is so funny, but this is the real horseshoe, like unironically. The take you're not ready to hear, this is unironically what the median voter sees. Mamdani in the center left, Trump on the center right, Kamala Harris on the far left, Liz Cheney on the far right. I'm not like, this is unironically the reverse centrist horseshoe, but it is closer to the median voter. This is a truth nuke, okay? This is closer to the median voter's understanding of the world. I swear to God, because it's mostly primarily vibes based. Okay, it is primarily vibes based. This is not correct politically. Okay, but it is primarily vibes based. You need to understand that. You need to understand that. This actually corresponds to polling on the matter as well. A part of the reason for why this is primarily vibes based is because the American voters' understanding is completely out of whack. They don't analyze things. They don't analyze the left-right dynamic in American politics by looking at policies. It's not grounded in ideology. It's grounded in vibes, and not only that, but also it's grounded in like the heterodox. It's grounded in like heterodox thinking in general. People see Kamala Harris as like an extreme leftist because the way that Kamala Harris has been positioned, the way that Kamala Harris has been propped up, the way that Kamala Harris has been talked about is that she is a radical when it comes to social policies. It's not even true, but she is defined by one, being a black woman from San Francisco, right? Being a black woman from California. And that automatically makes a lot of people go, oh, you're so radical. And then two, it's because the most tangible policy position that she was mapped to, that she was anchored around, was that she wanted to do transgender bottom surgeries for Guatemalan migrants in immigration prison, okay, in immigrant detention facilities. And although that is a policy that both the Trump administration has continued and the Democrats have continued as well, because it's just like rendering medical aid to people. And obviously it would be ridiculous not to do that. And it's such a marginal issue that no one actually gives a shit about it unless it's like highlighted. The reason why Bernie doesn't get hit with that same beam is because Bernie is definable by policies that many Americans actually want. Okay? On the left flank of American politics, people go, yeah, I want Medicare for all. What the f***? That seems good to me. Okay? So they think that's a reasonable, moderate position. Okay? That's number one. Number two, Bernie is not hit with the culture war beam as much because his policies, and the same goes for Zohran Mamdani, who is even more woke than Bernie Sanders. Why are they not seen as as extreme on the left? Well, the reason why they're not seen as extreme on the left or have higher degrees of favorability is because they are identified by what they can do for the population, what they want to do for the voters. And those things that they're identified by are sound, reasonable, modest proposals that are simply expanding on pre-existing social safety nets. Okay? My point always has been that if Kamala Harris, for example, ran on identifiable key policy prescriptions to the ailments that many American working class people are experiencing, then ultimately it would have been much harder to present her as a silly, crazy person who only cares about woke. You can't lie to me. It's just popularity makes you a centrist. I mean, this also is stupid because being a centrist is considered the good thing here. Okay? There is a higher value associated with centrism. This isn't even correct. I think most Americans basically see a couple key policies that they appreciate, and they make up their mind on whether they like it or not. And also heterodox thinking as well. When I was at Zohran Mamdani's rallies, the crowd can do a call and response to his top policies: freeze the rent, make buses fast and free, make childcare free. The only other time I've heard that where people are able to call back to signature policy is President Trump's build the wall. That's about more than just showmanship or social media. It's about rooted in a value that people can easily identify and trust you on. It's two electeds who treat politics as a collective action rather than a game played top down. My take on Zohran Trump, and instead is spitting here. Okay, this is what I've said over and over again as well, right? If you are definable by key policies, then people can't put fucking words in your mouth because you can always go back to that. You can always go back to that. You can always go back to, the policies that you want to be defined by. The closest identifiable fixture of both of these guys is that they are populists, okay? One is a fake right-wing populist who really focuses on winnable culture war issues that they're constantly propagandizing over, and also redirecting the attention and anger and animosity that the average working class person feels back to marginalized populations, a sloppulist, if you will. Whereas the other one is a left populist who recognizes that the real solution is economic improvements. This is something that I have said over and over again. Now, of course, had the remix. This was Zohran. Hold on, let me see if I can zap this. Okay, good. Oh, no, I can't zap the whole thing. You forget that $3 billion in their account diff? Stop using populist wrong. What do you mean? I hate people using the term populist. A populist isn't someone who is popular. What? I'm not saying that a populist is someone who is popular. What are you talking about? A populist or populist policies are policies that populist is anti-democratic. Okay, well, I'm not a neoliberal, okay? So I don't consider it that way. I don't see it that way at all. I think left populism would be to turn around and take complicated policy suggestions that would require a tremendous amount of work to implement, and simplifying them in a way. Sean the Black, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. Tax the rich is a populist policy, okay? Rather than trying to describe the complications, you just simplify it for a much broader audience to receive, okay? And populist policies are oftentimes those policies that benefit the largest number of the population in an easy to understand way, in an easy to understand messaging campaign. Okay? Farley is going crazy right now. No, he's talking about the definition of populist we have in other parts of the world, in a word that means demagogue. No, I know. Populism is just a politician orientation that says the current elites are not serving the interests of the people and that serious reforms of the elite are necessary in order to align with the masses. Anyway, let's continue.
NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch. They also spoke about immigration and New York's sanctuary city policies. On Saturday, President Trump was asked about
very good meeting yesterday. We talked about
city policies. On Saturday, President Trump was asked about sending in federal troops.
Right now, other places need it more, but if they need it, we had a very good meeting yesterday. We talked about that. But if they need it, I would do it.
Mamdani said he told the president what separates New York City from anywhere else in the country is the NYPD, and he trusts police to deliver public safety. Jenna DeAngelis, CBS News, New York.
And joining me now is the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. Mr. Mayor-elect, welcome back to Meet the Press, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back.
Well, it is wonderful to have you here in person, fresh off of your first meeting with President Donald Trump. He praised you. He even said you could do a great job as mayor despite months of a bitter back and forth. Were you surprised by the warm welcome that you got?
You know, I was looking forward to having the meeting with the president to speak about the needs of the 8.5 million people who call the same city we love home, and to speak, frankly, about the affordability crisis that is pushing so many of them out of those 5 boroughs. And I found in the meeting that I had with the president a productive one, and a meeting that came back again and again to the central themes of the campaign that we ran: the cost of housing, the cost of childcare, the cost of groceries, the cost of utilities. And it showed that this is an opportunity to now start to deliver so that people can do more than just aspire to struggle in New York City, but actually to be able to live there.
But did you expect it to be so chummy? What was going through your head when you were standing there?
You know, I thought again and again about what it would mean for New Yorkers if we could establish a productive relationship that would focus on the issues that those New Yorkers stay up late at night thinking about. Because so often in our politics, we try and tell people what they should be worried about, what they should be concerned about. But when you actually ask New Yorkers and you listen to them, you hear it come back to the issues that animated not just the conversation the president and I had with the press after our meeting, but frankly in the meeting itself. It was a conversation where we spoke about the need.
Whoever media trained Mamdani needs to be the head of the Democratic Party immediately. Lamau? No. I think it starts with the policies. It starts with the worldview. The reason why you consider him to be so good at messaging and so believable is because he has a well-defined worldview that is outside of normal politics in the Democratic Party. Like, he is a solid communicator. He's naturally good. He's naturally charismatic. He's naturally a solid communicator, which certainly helps. But ultimately, it definitely does come back to having politics that are anchored around simple to understand policies. Okay, he comes across as sincere, but ultimately he comes across as earnest and sincere around advancing an agenda that many people associate him with. Okay, it's as simple as believing in something. Simply put, if you want it to be defined not by the actual politics of Zohran Mamdani, you can basically say he believes in something. Democrats come across as believing in nothing. Republicans, on the other hand, also believe in something, right? There is a level of sincerity with Republican politics, even though the politics they believe in are awful. They're garbage. They're harmful to large swaths of the population. They still have definable worldviews, even if we consider it to be evil, right? They have a definable worldview that is seen as tangible, and also people can associate with them positively or negatively if they choose to do so. Democrats, on the other hand, oftentimes shy away from that. They think that's a failure. They think that's a bad thing to be defined by policies. They are oftentimes believe that the most successful method is to simply say you are not a Republican, and then that's it. That should be enough for everybody to vote for you. Like, I'm not talking about the actual content of the messaging here, though that's good. He's very good at bringing questions back to policy issues. Yeah, but you can't do that. You can't do that if you have no policies to anchor yourself around, to anchor your campaign around. That's it. That's my point. You have to have things that you can bring the conversation back to all the time, an agenda that you are advancing.
Need to deliver on this agenda. And I appreciated that when the president, when we had that meeting, it wasn't just in the Oval Office. He also took me into the cabinet room, and there we were looking at portraits of presidents of years gone by, and we admired a portrait of...
Like, I'll give you Pete Buttigieg as a counter. Zohran Mamdani and Pete Buttigieg are both decent communicators. But when I bring that up, That's the real truth nuke. But if I were to bring that up, everyone would be like, how dare you say that? It's true. Pete Buttigieg is actually a pretty solid communicator. But Pete Buttigieg is what you get when you have a solid communicator, utterly devoid of politics, that is the classic, undefinable, centrist, third-way neoliberal politician. And that is precisely the reason why he comes across as insincere. That's precisely the reason why he comes across as not a great communicator. He appeals to the liberal wine moms, but he doesn't appeal beyond that base of support within the Democratic Party. And that is because he's not trustworthy. He doesn't, like, people don't actually look at him and go, oh, this is a guy who's going to bring about change that I think is necessary. Okay? That's it. Standing on business and loudly and proudly declaring your worldview goes a very long way. A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people are too afraid to broach that subject. A lot of people are too afraid to stake their reputation on the line. Pete makes word salad to make you agree either with him on whatever he's talking about. Zohran wants free buses. Kind of.
FDR. And in many ways, when I think about the candidacy that we've put forward, it looks to Fiorello LaGuardia as the greatest mayor in New York City history. You can't tell the story of LaGuardia without telling the story of FDR and the story of a relationship with the federal government that finally delivered at the scale of the crisis it was facing.
Well, prior to you,
I will say it's also somewhat refreshing to have a politician be like knowledgeable. I think a lot of people also forget that you can know things and you can educate people on the spot. And he does that quite a bit. I mean, obviously it's centered around New York politics, but ultimately it's not a bad thing that you can do that, you know? It goes a long way. I think politicians knowing is a good thing, okay? It's a weird world that we live in where I think people automatically say like, oh, you have to be dumb. You have to be like a dumb guy to win over the dummies, the stupids. But that's not the case.
Meeting. I don't have to tell you this. President Trump repeatedly threatened to cut off federal funding to New York if you won. The president seemed to back away from that yesterday, though, in his public comments in that joint news conference that you all did. He said, I don't think that's going to happen. I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. Do you believe him when he says that?
No, I believed the president in the conversation that we had, and I will continue to make the case, both to the president and to the country at large, about the needs of New Yorkers. Because what I found, frankly, is that New Yorkers have grown tired of being asked to believe in a system that has delivered very little for them. They're tired of a politics that expects everything from them while delivering little. And what they want now is a politics that can see the scale of the crisis in front of it and actually start to work together to deliver on that crisis.
You know, you ran a campaign, though, saying that President Trump had not delivered on his promise of affordability. Did anything that happened in that meeting make you think, yes, he can deliver on that promise for Americans, for New Yorkers?
Well, I spoke to the president about the fact that while our campaign technically began on October 23rd last year, for many people, they became aware of it after the president won his election. And when I went out and spoke to New Yorkers, asking them who did they vote for and why, in two neighborhoods that swung most significantly towards the president. This was Fordham Road in the Bronx, Hillside Avenue in Queens. And I shared with the president that when I asked those New Yorkers why did they vote for the president, they told me again and again it was cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And when the president and I were speaking, we were speaking about what is preventing from delivering on that affordability agenda. Sometimes it's a lack of taking on the broken system that we have, and I spoke about in New York City, for example, zoning regulations. We spoke about ULURP. This is a process by which you either approve or deny zoning changes that are made in New York City. We spoke about the need to change so many of those situations such that a developer doesn't tell you the thing more expensive than labor or materials is waiting. And we also spoke about the importance of understanding what it is that hurts New Yorkers in their pockets. It's their rent, it's their childcare, it's their utilities, and it's their childcare. Because the childcare, I say twice, because it is the second highest cost after housing, $22,500 a year for a single child.
Well, let me ask you about the other threat that we heard from President Trump to send troops to New York City to address issues of crime and immigration.
Does it bug you that Zohran is too on message sometimes? No.
We've seen him do this in other major cities. Did you get any assurances in your meeting, Mayor-elect Mamdani, that President Trump will not send troops into New York?
I told the president that the cornerstone of an affordability agenda is public safety, and that it is critically important to me. And for all that has been said and all that has been spoken about, and the tens of millions of dollars looking to make New Yorkers fearful of that question, the truth of it is, in fact, that I'm looking forward to working with the NYPD to deliver on that. And I shared with the president that my decision to retain Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch is in large part a recognition of the fact that in her time leading the NYPD, she has driven down crime across the 5 boroughs while starting to uproot corruption.
This is my least favorite part about like all the things that he's done so far. Not only because like Tisch is a ultra Zionist, but also I think like getting a police commissioner that is on board with your worldview, or at least like much closer to your worldview, is a much better way to deal with it. But I think that it's a miscalculation. I think it's a miscalculation overall, but that is the real reason why a lot of people are souring on Zohran Mamdani. I'm not one of those people that says like, oh, this is, you know, you guys don't want someone to actually govern and legislate. You're being silly and childish. I think that's an understandable area of concern. I think it's a totally valid criticism. I think his answers on that were really bad leading up to the election, and I was a lot more forgiving because there was an election in that situation. But like the Jessica Tisch thing is part of the reason why like even Trump was more comfortable associating with Zohran, apparently saying like, oh, well, you know, he kept Tisch on. Can you ask your viewers to join ICE just to be really incompetent so they slow down ICE? No. You cannot get rid of any Tisch in New York. It's akin to thinking you can just say f you to the president. No. You're the mayor. Don't be crazy. I do think Tisch is bad, but he's overruling her already and abolishing the strategic response group, which is a major demand of police reformers. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, we'll see what kind of friction takes place. If Tisch wants to remain the head of the police in New York and lead the NYPD, or if she just starts undermining Zohran's agenda to the best of her ability, and she will have a lot of power to do so, at which point the friction will lead to, the contradictions will inevitably have to be resolved.
That was endemic in the top echelons of that department under Mayor Adams.
And I'm going to follow up with you on your decision to keep Commissioner Tisch. But to this core question that I think so many New Yorkers are curious to know the answer to, what did President Trump say to you? Did he assure you he will not send troops into New York?
He told me that he cared deeply about public safety. I said I cared deeply about the same.
But did he say he wouldn't send troops?
What I told him is that what separates New York City from anywhere else in the country is we have the NYPD. And I trust the NYPD to deliver public safety. And to me, that is something that I know that they can do, that they have done, and they will continue to do under my leadership.
So he didn't rule it out in your meeting?
I made it very clear what we wanted to do was to deliver public safety and affordability, and the NYPD would be the ones to do so.
In that press conference with President Trump, a reporter asked you whether you believe that President Trump is in fact a fascist, a word that you've used in the past.
This is another, I don't think these are as bad, these are not bad questions, chatters. Controversial opinion, but when you have someone that's outside of like the regular political ecosystem, these guys end up asking really good questions. I don't think this is a bad question. I think it's a good question. I'm glad that he's being interrogated on this stuff because he is he's been notoriously evasive on this stuff. Okay, whether you truly believe Donald Trump is a fascist or not, and how you end up squaring that circle, that's a big one. How do you collaborate with someone that you've called a fascist? I think that's a fair question to ask. Jessica Tisch is a fair question to ask. Hakeem Jeffries and the endorsement of Hakeem Jeffries is a fair question to ask, especially considering that you ran on uncompromising anti-Zionism only to turn around and be like, no, Hakeem Jeffries is the GOAT. He's my GOAT and I love him. Like how much politicking is appropriate in this situation? I know that his goal first and foremost is to deliver on an agenda that he promised to his voters as the mayor of New York, but like how much of that is actually a mistake?
Past, you were about to answer, then President Trump sort of jumped in and he said, quote, "That's okay, you can just say yes, it's easier than explaining it." So Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do.
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement, about the politics that has brought us to this moment. And we also wanted to focus on what it could look like to deliver on a shared analysis of an affordability crisis for New Yorkers.
You've also said in the past that President Trump has engaged in a, quote, attack on our democracy. You've called him a despot. Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe. And that's the thing that I think is important in our politics, is that we don't shy away from where we have disagreements, but we understand what it is that brings us to that table. Because I'm not coming into the Oval Office to make a point or make a stand. I'm coming in there to deliver for New Yorkers. And a few weeks ago, I was asked by a reporter 3 words to describe myself. I said, New York City. And that's what animated that conversation. How do we deliver for the people of New York City?
Fascism is a bit more than a disagreement. Yeah, but do you have... Dude, he is the president, okay? As long as you're not conceding to the president, you're going to have to demand that he doesn't cut funds if you're the mayor of New York, okay? Not only is he the president, but he's also threatening military occupation of the city that you're supposed to be the mayor of. And on top of that, he said he was going to treat New York City like it's Cuba. Okay? Like, in that situation, considering that you're a part of the government in this day and age, you know, and the way that the situation currently works, you're still very much a part of the government. Am I kind of wrong for looking at Zohran a little sideways right now? Just a little? No, it's understandable. I think if you're the governor, you have a lot more amenities or you have a lot more power. But if you're the mayor, I see that as like a little bit different, you know? But yeah, of course, it's okay to be critical. It's okay to be critical. By this logic, should every Democrat be more friendly to Trump? It depends. It depends on what position they occupy and what the president has said about them or what the president has said they're going to do to the city that they're a part of. Because like, first of all, Democrats already play ball with the president a lot more than they should be. I think the major criticisms that I have of Zohran so far is the Chi Ose counter, like right out of the gates. I disagree with that. I understand where he's coming from, but I think it's a miscalculation. It's a misstep. And I think Hakeem Jeffries is going to, whether Zohran is nice to him or not, always going to undermine the left flank of the party. That's his position. That's number one. And then number two is the Jessica Tisch thing. Okay. I don't really care about him. I don't really care about him like going and talking to the president and seemingly coming across as like chummy in this interview, especially when he's not backing away from any of his positions. Like so far, I think Trump is actually, like I said before, playing politics, appearing positively with Zohran, partially because he wants a little bit of that shine. Okay. And, you know, because he did win on an affordability agenda, and Donald Trump knows that that's like a major thing that his voters demand of him. So he wants to seem more sincere on trying to tackle the affordability problems. And I think Zohran messaged around that very well. That's number one. And then number two, I think Trump wants to throw a grenade in the Democratic Party politics by coming across as more pro-Zohran. Coming across as more pro-Zohran actually it causes some level of instability within the Democratic base, or at least not in the base, but in the party structure, because you've seen establishment Democrats either refuse to endorse Zohran Mamdani or basically endorse him quietly at the last moment, like Hakeem Jeffries, right? Or even be antagonistic towards him and call him a jihadist and shit. Yehuda says, the biggest issue I have with him so far was saying that people should be able to pray without being threatened in response to a protest about a land sale. Very much Zionist capitulation that directly affected me and other protesters. Yeah, I didn't see what his response was to the synagogue protest that took place, but that was like classic. That was classic pro-Israel doing land sales and fundraisers for the IDF inside of a place of worship. It says a lot worse things about the Zionists in that circumstance than it does about the people protesting against it. The people protesting against it were doing something totally valid. And Zohran Mamdani, given his long history of anti-Zionist protests, absolutely knows what that looks like and absolutely knows who's in the wrong there. So any kind of capitulation to that is ridiculous. But I suspect that he probably wasn't as as upset about the protesters at all in the way that you presented. I didn't see it though. What did he say? Mamdani spokesperson Dora Pekic tells me the mayor-elect has discouraged the language used at last night's protest and will continue to do so in response to demonstrators outside of Pargi Synagogue who chanted death to the IDF and globalized the Intifada. The mayor-elect has discouraged the language used at last night's protest and will continue to do so. He believes every New Yorker should be free to enter a house of worship without intimidation and that these sacred spaces should not be used to promote activities in violation of international law. Yeah, I don't think the first part is even necessary. He's trying to do a both sides thing. But yeah, he's trying to do a both sides thing in this circumstance, which is so stupid. I mean, he knows better. Asked to clarify the conducting caveat, Mamdani's team says it was specifically in reference to the organization's promotion of settlement activity beyond the Green Line, which violates international law. Yeah, note that he didn't disavow the protest itself and actually didn't disavow the synagogue event. Yeah, this is because this is the issue with the initial disavowal of globalized intifada. His first response was appropriate when he said, like, people don't understand what this means. Yes, it comes across as hurtful only because people are scared of the word Arabic, the word intifada, which is an Arabic word. Okay, he did disavow the synagogue event. No, I know, I understand that. I'm just saying that he doesn't even need to say like, oh, people shouldn't be fearful of going to the place of worship. I'm sorry, dude. If you're going to an illegal land sale of a fascist apartheid state in any place, whether it be a place of worship or not, then it's no longer a place of worship. It's a criminal activity hub. Okay, protest is the least people can do in this circumstance. Everyone else who has an issue with that can suck my entire dick. Okay, that's it. I think it's ridiculous. I also think it's ridiculous to complain about the language being used in this circumstance, like globalized the intifada. It's a hurtful language. It's scary. It's like, no, you know better. You know it's not hurtful or scary. You're just paying the piper here. Okay, you're trying to do your very best to manage the situation in a way that you don't really need to. I understand. During the campaign where you're like fearful that this was going to be the only thing you have to address, and you thought it could be easy to just like chop it, ahead of time. Oh, I'm not going to condemn the language. I'm not going to police the language. I think it's silly. That's probably a better way to go about it. Then again, I'm not the mayor, but as an analyst, as a commentator, this is my assessment. This is my position. I think when people are being insincere in their demands, you don't have to capitulate to those demands. Those are insincere demands. There's no reason that you have to capitulate to those demands. As a matter of fact, authenticity is key here, and it's actually been incredibly helpful for the way that Zohran has been perceived as opposed to the rest of the Democratic Party. So there's no reason to now do this kind of shit. No excuses, but every politician will do the thing we dislike. Which of those actions are you anticipating most from Mamdani?
I think that some of your supporters would be curious to know. You say you stand by your past statements that, yes, he's a threat to the democracy. How do you square working with someone who you still think is a threat to the democracy?
I think working for the people of New York City demands that you work with everyone and anyone, and that you always look to find those areas of agreement while not overlooking the places of disagreement. And I think this was something that came up in our meeting. We spoke about immigration. We spoke about the fact that in New York City, we have sanctuary city policies that allow for the city to work with the federal government on around 170 serious crimes. The concern for so many New Yorkers comes about anything beyond that. And I spoke about the importance of us being able to protect New Yorkers and some of the incidents.
Oh yeah, I didn't really care much for his statements on Cuba and Venezuela either. I thought those were silly. But again, that's too much in the that goes too much into like foreign policy beyond the scope of the New York mayor in general.
That we see, they do not do that.
You raised the issue of sanctuary cities, so I want to speak to you more broadly about the issue of immigration. This is one that is so critical to.
Bro, he's the mayor of New York. Why the fuck would he care? No, exactly. That's my point too. My position is he's the mayor of New York. Who gives a shit? Like, you don't have to answer all those questions. At least with Israel, it was brought up as a major point in the entire run. But you don't have to run around and be like, oh, I think Cuba is a despotic, tyrannical state or some shit. I don't know what he even said ultimately, but like that's one of those things where it's like, I'm the mayor of New York. I don't know why you guys are demanding condemnations or assessments about Cuba or Venezuela. And if you're going to talk about it, I think the most prescient point to talk about, the most like visible point to talk about is quite literally the fact that we are doing a major crime. Yeah. This is from last year. Representative McGovern is right. Cuba's electrical crisis is worsened by the embargo and their inclusion in the state-sponsored terrorism list. President Biden sent aid immediately and removed Cuba from the SSOT. The Cuban people cannot wait. He called Maduro and Diaz Canal dictators. Yeah. Or even with Venezuela, I think the appropriate thing to say, with Cuba, the appropriate thing to say is that we're strangling them to death. And with Venezuela, the appropriate thing to say is that Donald Trump wants to start a war in Venezuela, and he hasn't shied away from communicating that. That's ridiculous. I thought he ran on no wars. That's a failure in terms of his one of his major promises to his own voters. It's absolutely unacceptable to destabilize this entire region. It's ridiculous. It's inhumane. It's cruel. And we've seen the failures of the global war on terror, the unlimited cruelty. You know? In any case, let's
New York, the rest of the country as well. One of your top supporters, Senator Bernie Sanders, recently weighed in on President Trump's record managing the border. He compared it to former President Biden. I want you to take a listen to what he had to say. I'll get your reaction on
the Tim Dillon podcast, which
Trump
is crazy.
Did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have a secure border, and it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it. Those before him did not do it. We should have a secure border, period.
Do you agree with Senator Bernie Sanders that President Trump has done a better job securing the border than former President Biden?
I haven't thought much about comparing presidents on the question of securing the border. I think it's important that it's secure, and I also think it's important that we have an immigration system that is humane. And that's what I spoke about with the president, is that New Yorkers want to see humanity in the policies that are being implemented.
Do you give President Trump some credit for the work that he's done to make the border, in Senator Sanders' estimation, more?
This is forever one of Bernie's worst takes. Yeah, if you listen to the rest of his take and he expands on it, he does arrive at the same exact sentiment that Zohran is saying here. It's just that in that moment, I think it was a terrible way to respond to that question, because you are under no circumstance or no obligation to say Donald Trump is doing a good job with the border, because it's just not true. It's just not true at all. That's it. The border crisis is a man-made crisis, and it's man-made because it is instigated with white nativist anti-immigrant sentiment in a country that is the most diverse country on the planet. And that diversity is unironically America's strength. It's one of the most redeeming qualities of the United States of America. It's part of the reason why the United States of America has been such a dominant force around the globe. Okay? The notion that like Donald Trump's attitude here is actually good is so stupid, especially when even Trump's very own base of support is souring on the immigration. Comparing it to the failure of the Biden administration also doesn't win you any favors, because it leans into the false notion that the Biden administration was also doing like open border policies or whatever the Republicans have framed him on. It's ridiculous. I hate that so much. I dislike it. I dislike it quite a bit, because first and foremost, it is untrue. It is not truthful. And the first thing you should always do is be truthful, be honest. It seems like he's doing a whole Trump is more credible on immigration, but that's a bad thing. But if you clip the first part of the sentiment, it sounds unresolved and supportive. Yes. Yo, he is literally a standard Dem right now before entering office, not like mistakes by Bernie, how it feels too much infantilization when they make mistakes like this, stupid or miscalculation when it falls in line with them moderating far more than most politicians who are Dem in a year span. What are you talking about? Loaf Bats, thank you for the 10 gifted subs.
Secure?
What I give President Trump credit.
Do you agree with the president's kill all children policy is reduced education spending? Yeah, that's basically it. Yes. Don't you think it's wonderful that the president is doing is truly securing the border? What a ridiculous way to answer that. What a ridiculous way to answer that. America is what it is because of flows of migration into this country.
for is the meeting that we had yesterday was one that was focused on how we could work together for New Yorkers. And the place that we could do so most effectively, frankly, is ensuring every New Yorker can afford the city they call home.
Well, you take me to my next question, which is about really the central issue of your campaign, affordability. You have said that you want to raise $9 billion in new taxes, increasing taxes on the wealthy, on businesses, in order to fund your key policies like universal child care, which you mentioned. You would need Governor Kathy Hochul to be on board with this. You'd need her signature. She has never publicly committed to increasing taxes. I know you just spoke with her. Mr. Mayor-elect, did Governor Hochul commit to you that she will support and sign on to your plan to increase taxes?
The governor and I had a productive conversation, and what we both committed to is working together for the affordability agenda. And one thing I appreciate of the many about Governor Hochul is that she's been focused not just on affordability, but specifically on universal child care for quite some time. And now is the time to bring a partner forward in City Hall. And I've said plainly and openly that I believe that these are two tax proposals that make sense, increasing the personal income taxes on New Yorkers making $1 million or more by just 2%, increasing the top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey. And what I've also said is more important than how we fund something is that we fund something. And if there are additional or alternate revenue streams to do so, I will accept them and I will celebrate them, because the most important thing is to actually deliver for the New Yorkers who right now can't even conceive of having a family in New York City because of how expensive we've made childcare across the 5 boroughs.
Well, and your entire agenda is incredibly ambitious: universal child care, free buses, among other things, lowering rent. Can you deliver on this agenda without Governor Hochul agreeing to increase taxes?
Well, I'm thankful that I'm not going to have to engage in the hypothetical, because I am confident of the two of us working together to deliver on this agenda and ensure that finally, and this goes back to just that portrait of FDR.
Thank you,
When
Emily
look at
Giselle,
what
for the 5 you
has
did.
been in the past. It has been there in the moments of such transformation, meeting the scale of the crisis. We can do that again.
Mamdani, I want to work together with Trump. We need a secure border. I disavow Palestine protests. We love NYPD, and we want New Yorkers to do ICE raids, not federal agents. You guys, he's just playing ball. He's definitely having conflict with these people. I like that none of the things that you just framed there is accurate, whether it be my assessment or whether it be even the most negative associations with like what he has said thus far. Like, he said none of that, and I said none of that. How can you watch something and be so off on everything? Are you watching just a totally alternative? Like, are you just watching something entirely different right now? What the f going on? Like, every part of this was ridiculous. I am saying that there are aspects of Zohran's statements that I am very critical of. I'm not saying he's just playing ball, he's doing a great job. That's not what I'm saying at all. And I don't even think he went as hard as what you said. He got you on mute. Yeah, he cooked me. He cooked me because he's hallucinating an entirely separate reality. What the f?
So just yes or no, you think she'll raise taxes?
I think she'll work with me to deliver on affordability. I think raising taxes make the most sense. If there's any alternative that raises the same amount of money, I'm open.
All right, let's talk about another major issue, which you referenced: policing.
So many major issues.
Crime. There are a lot of major issues, I know.
God, the audio is so ass.
5 years ago, you were calling for defunding the police. Now you are in charge of the largest police department in the country. You have tapped
crime. The gain is base boosted.
Commissioner Jessica Tisch to stay on in her job. She has accepted. She wants to put thousands more police officers on the streets of New York. Will you do that, Mr. Mayor-elect?
I've said over the course of the campaign that I think the number we have had budgeted of 35,000 officers is a sufficient number. What we have to do, however, is allow those officers to focus.
You have it cranked up with your extension? I know, but here, okay, let's put it at 100 and let's see if you can hear it.
On police. And what I mean by that is that in 2020, the response time for the NYPD was less.
Is that better? Is that better? Come on, no, keep back seating. Keep back seating. Is that better, you think? Or perhaps I know what I'm doing and there's a reason why I cranked it. Sounds fine, actually. You won't be able to hear it. My audio is much higher. My audio levels are much higher than the audio levels of the video. And if I kept it that way, everyone would say, oh, dude, I can't hear the actual video. All right, you know what? Sounds better, chatters. Okay, let's do 100. Let's do 110. That's where it was.
11 minutes. Today, it's closer to. A large part of that is because officers are now having to deal with 200,000 mental health calls. And so our proposal is create a Department of Community Safety, task it with the mental health crisis, the homeless crisis, and allow officers to focus on serious crimes so we get back to the work of delivering on this.
As far as his like defund the police agenda goes, he actually did stay on message on that front, saying he's going to keep the current headcount for the NYPD and lower the burden that the NYPD has to deal with. And I think that's an appropriate thing to do. That's a smart thing to do. He's right. That is also a part of the reason why that was the major point for defund the police in general, which is take some of the funds that normally would go to the police and reallocate it back to like social workers, things like that. And on that front, he's actually been consistent on this. But I don't really mind. I don't really mind that liberals think this is I don't really mind that this liberals see this as like, oh, Zohran is moderating. Great. Okay. It's a moderate position. If tomorrow Zohran said, not Zohran, but a Zohran-like candidate on the national front is winning an election by saying, oh, I don't want Medicare for all. I want single payer. Okay. And people are like, well, you said you wanted Medicare for all, but now you're saying single payer. And he ended up describing the process of like, oh, well, we need to pool all of the insurance payment funds into one large pool so that there is automatic leverage for those who are in dire need of insurance. And I think we do that through a modest increase in taxes for at least like some of the wealthiest individuals in society, and the middle class will end up paying less overall as opposed to their insurance premiums. And everyone goes, wow, he really moderated on this position. He really changed it. That's a completely different policy. Then, yeah, I'm on board. Who gives a shit what you call it? Call it Trump care if you want to. I care about solutions. Do you see what I mean? So in terms of his moderation on defund the police, he didn't actually moderate on that at all. But it's fine if people think that he did. Do you see what I mean? It's more so a matter of whether he will be able to follow through on this promise.
Trapped in a political discourse without addressing this crisis.
But violent crime is substantially down under Commissioner Tisch's watch. Do you acknowledge that her approach is working, and therefore do you need to listen to her when she says, I need more cops on the street?
The reason I made the decision to retain Commissioner Tisch is because of the importance of outcomes. The fact that she has been able to deliver on rooting out corruption while lowering crime is something to be celebrated. And I think the commissioner and I have been very clear.
Could you turn it back up? I'm washing dishes at work and it's loud as fuck. Can't hear the video. Your chatters are ignorant. Don't worry. Of course. I just wanted to prove to the audio chatters that are being annoying. Okay, I know. I already fixed it.
That what brings us together is a shared importance of public safety. I think we can do that with the officers we have.
Would you rule out putting more police officers on the street?
What I will tell you is that the $35,000 we have budgeted, that's the amount that I think we need.
Okay. Let me ask you, again, just going back to that press conference with President Trump, as reporters were leaving, you were answering a question that I think was hard for a lot of people to hear about your response to protests outside of a Manhattan synagogue. Your initial response to that incident did receive some criticism, as you know. What is your message to Jewish New Yorkers who feel you won't be tough enough in your response to anti-Semitism?
Since crime is down, why would they need more police? Great question. That's actually something that he should be saying at all. She should be saying as well. Be like, hey, look, she's actually succeeded on delivering on this promise, and I think it's good. It's good that she did that. But that doesn't mean that we need more cops, as a matter of fact. What we need is to lighten the burden of cops. Michael Fusscourt, thank you for the 25 gifted. Open Presence, thank you for the 25 gifted. Hell yeah.
That I'm looking forward to being the next mayor of New York City and fulfilling the commitment I've made to Jewish New Yorkers over the course of this campaign, which is a commitment to not only protect them across the five boroughs, but to celebrate and cherish them. And what that looks like is rooting out anti-Semitism. It looks like increasing funding for hate crime prevention programs by 800%. And it also looks like ensuring that we have NYPD protection outside of synagogues and temples, especially on the high holy days. And I want to just say, recently on Yom Kippur, there was a horrific anti-Semitic attack in Manchester. A rabbi in New York City reached out to me and said, could you ensure that there's additional police per synagogue for today? I said, absolutely. And I also asked, what if that rabbi did not know the next mayor of New York City? We have to make it so that it doesn't matter who you know. It matters that you will get that safety and security because you're a New Yorker. That's the administration I'm going to put together.
All right. I do want to talk a little bit
Why
about
is Tish controversial? Billionaire dynastic family in New York. I mean, literally, the NYU Art School is named after her family. In the pocket of major developers, in the pocket of all of the finance capital in the city. And on top of that, ultra Zionist and a Trump supporter, just like all of the bad things that you would not want in the person commanding the largest army, the largest police force in the country. The police force is already going to be a major hurdle for Zohran and delivering his agenda. So, she's just bad across the board. I think she is literally the worst part of Zohran's team so far, especially because he had every opportunity not to continue with her, and it probably would have been a clean break because it's totally valid for an incoming mayor because you're running against the outgoing mayor. Okay, you won against the outgoing mayor. That means you can also have every opportunity to say, yeah, I want a whole new team without much friction, a whole new team that actually abides by the promises that you made that people voted for. You have the mandate for it, right? So if that's the case, when you have the mandate, it is the most opportune time to get rid of a potential enemy of your agenda without much friction, because it's like totally appropriate to do so. And instead, he basically defended her. Did she really reduce crime and corruption? I mean, crime rates are down. Violent crime rates are down. That is true. But that also holds against, that's consistent against national patterns as well.
Future of the Democratic Party. A number of Republicans are casting you as the face of the Democratic Party. Mr. Mayor-elect, I wonder, do you think that Democratic socialists can cross the country in battlegrounds?
Is it fair to call Zohran's mandate a mandate if 75% of New Yorkers didn't vote at all for a mayor? Considering that it was a heavily contested race with a former dynastic name in New York politics and Zohran still was able to achieve above 50%? Yes, absolutely. It's beyond a shadow of doubt that it is, yes, a mandate. And anyone who tries to act like it's not is coping. Okay? Record turnout. He defeats not only the Republican, but also the other Democrat in the race who still got a tremendous amount of votes. It is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Can you really call it a mandate just because it was the highest turnout in New York City electoral history in the last 80 years? Pepega asked question. Yeah, it's a stupid question. But it's one that the media has been pushing over and over again. So, of course, you're going to have people also repeating that silly line without really reading too much into it or without thinking about it at all is normal. That is the reason why the media actually hits that line. He was an independent. Get it together. Okay, dude. Come on. Come on now. Yeah.
States, for example.
I think a focus on the importance of dignity for working people.
Can you guys?
Is something that
can you
appeals to
stop
people
sending me
across
this? I
country.
know.
I will not.
It's your
venture
own
into
tweet.
The world
I know. I saw it.
National politics and punditry, but what I will tell you is that in New York City, we saw so many of the same dynamics we'd seen elsewhere. We'd seen a shift towards the right. We'd seen obituaries being written.
I'm glad you got a banger tweet off, though, Chatter. Good tweet.
About the Democratic Party's ability to speak to young people, to speak to Asian voters, speak especially to young men. And I actually shared this with the president, that the very constituencies that he had won over, that were a critical part of his increased vote share in New York City, were the ones that we then looked at as who we should focus on to bring back into the party. And I think that when you speak to those constituencies with the same respect you'd speak to any other, you will see that they will then engage in the process. We saw an increase in voter turnout amongst 18 to 29-year-olds by more than 300%. And that's because we spoke to them as New Yorkers who are facing an affordability crisis, not as young people we have to finger wag to participate in democracy.
Two more quick questions. If Democrats win the midterms, do you want to see Leader Jeffries become the Speaker of the House?
Yes.
Okay. That was a firm, quick answer.
Boo. Boo. That's an L, okay? Big L for Zohran as opposed to Zohran, if you know what I'm saying. It's just, nah. I don't know what kind of wheeling and dealing happened behind closed doors, but this is inappropriate. Straight up. Especially because like Hakeem Jeffries is going to be an enemy of everything that he presents. Okay, everything he wants to do with his agenda, Hakeem Jeffries is antagonistic to. It also kind of makes him look insincere on a lot of this shit, okay? Hakeem Jeffries is by normies known as AIPAC Shakur, okay? Especially in New York. Sure, he's very popular in his own district, but nationally he is unimaginably unpopular. Right now you're talking to Meet the Press. There is absolutely zero reason to try and defend Hakeem Jeffries. Yeah, damn, sometimes it's your own digital footprint. Exactly. This looks insincere, looks flip-floppy. After at least 2,251 passengers were killed over the course of July 2014, Hakeem Jeffries got on stage at a rally in New York City and paraphrased George Wallace. Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel forever. If Jeffries is considered a progressive, the term has lost all of its meaning. This take, wait, what? There's exactly zero value in Zohran's agenda as mayor and answering any other way. Well handled. I disagree. I disagree vehemently. Hakeem Jeffries did not do shit for Zohran pre-election. I don't know why Zohran is sticking his neck out for him. New York politics. I think he thinks that he absolutely needs to play ball with the nationally relevant establishment Democrats. Otherwise, you won't get any of his agenda across. And it's going to be a real surprise Pikachu moment when he actually doesn't get any of his agenda across, because none of those guys give a shit about playing ball with Zohran in return for him playing ball with them. I don't know why he's doing this. I think this is a major mistake. It is a major mistake. It's a ginormous mistake. These guys are unimaginably antagonistic to everything he represents. I don't know what they're saying behind closed doors, but it does not matter. I know what they do in public. Okay? I know what they have done. What? Asking Hasan for tone tips is insane. What's he supposed to say? Maybe, but let him try to Riz Jeffries? No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Come on, man. Hakeem Jeffries has done nothing. He's done less than even Nancy Pelosi did in terms of offering like decent committee positions to the progressive wing of the party, keeping that caucus together. No shot. Hakeem Jeffries is as pro-Israel as like the average Republican. It's ridiculous. Why is rizzing Trump okay but not Jeffries? Because Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America. Okay? Hakeem Jeffries is a nationally unpopular leader of the Democratic Party that has more power to basically excise the left flank. Donald Trump is the president and he's a Republican. Hakeem Jeffries is like internal party politics.
So you leave plenty of time for my final answer.
Let me go back and give a little more.
Look,
do you think he's endorsing Trump? Do you think he's endorsing Donald Trump as president? Is that what you think he's doing? Because he is endorsing Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House and the minority leader. It's ridiculous.
former President Obama called you
Someone
after
said
your
yes.
victory.
Yeah, Zohran Mamdani went and spoke to the president, which means that he actually wants Donald Trump to be the next president and the president after. Okay, he tried to actively clear the field for Hakeem Jeffries by undermining and then actively petitioning against Chiose, running against Hakeem Jeffries. I think is totally ridiculous.
And he offered to be a sounding board for you as you take on this role of mayor of New York City. What advice did he give you about?
And by the way, straight up, not supporting Chi and then going to the DSA meeting to say that DSA shouldn't support Chiose's campaign is not a good move. And he succeeded in making sure that the DSA, that Chiose could not field DSA's endorsement. As you guys probably saw already, should the citywide electoral working group recommend Chiose for endorsement for Congress in New York 8, got 46% yes votes and 52% no votes. I think that was a major mistake. A lot of the people, I read into this quite a bit, and a lot of the people that obviously could not participate in this voting process were the newcomers into the DSA. And I understand why there is like a system here at play that like the older DSA members obviously hold a lot more weight over where the organization can throw its weight around. This makes sense, right? Having said that, You have a fuck ton of newcomers that are joining the DSA because they like what Zohran did, which was unseat establishment Democrats. And then immediately they're met with, no, you can't unseat this establishment Democrat. Disagreed. She is an opportunist, is what a lot of people are saying. And it's like, oh, well, he doesn't have the same level of bona fides within the DSA structure as Zohran did. Fair. Okay. Having said that, the goal here is to still ultimately have progressive, skilled communicators, unseat establishment Democrats that are antagonistic to the DSA. And if you think that the alternative is like Hakeem Jeffries, the alternative of Hakeem Jeffries maintaining his power and continuing to do whatever he has in his capabilities to destroy the left flank, then you're insincere. DSA in 2020, then quitting after a month and only rejoining again after Zohran Mamdani was elected is incredibly sus. Hey, stop barking.
How to lead effectively in these years ahead.
You know, one thing I really appreciated about the conversations I've had with the president have been the importance of what it looks like, not only to inspire hope, but to sustain it and then to deliver on it. And time again, that comes back to the city hall that you're putting together. And even right now, we have about 40 odd days of a transition. Transitions are typically a time of pageantry and pomp. We want it to be a time of substance, a time of purpose. And so we ensured that the first day after the election, we announced our 4 incredible co-chairs of our transition, our executive director. And then the week after that, the first deputy mayor, the chief of staff. We're moving much faster than typical because we want January 1st to be a day where we start to deliver, not start to prepare. And I appreciate President Obama's emphasis of what it looks like to prepare in advance so that you can deliver.
All right, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Real pleasure.